All right, Friday morning, Krug Show. Chase Sr. is in the house. We got a lot to get to, even during the bye week. That's right. Let's go. Off and running on the Krug Show on a Friday. Chase Sr.'s in the house in his regular spot. We're running a little bit behind. It's all because of Kev. He was late today. What can I say? That's what happens when the kid goes to party in Hawaii. He's not quite the Kev that we know. We're getting kind of a scaled down version of Kev. But welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And we'll be in Corte Madera on Sunday for the Krug Show meet and greet. Stop by, say hello, have some brisket, watch some football, and we'll be watching the Week 14 games during the bye week. Chase, good to see you, man. And you know, there's never a shortage of Niner topics, but you know, during the bye week there's less. And you know, we're in that portion of the year where you really want to keep your eye on the scoreboard. And definitely want to keep your eye on the other scores and what's going on around football. Now, last night the Lions beat the Cowboys, but I'm reading just now, according to a source, tests this morning have confirmed that superstar Lions defensive back Brian Branch has torn his Achilles.
Not good.
Oh, my God. I saw him carted off in the fourth quarter. The Lions beat the Cowboys last night 44-30, but this guy suffered an injury while attempting to break up a pass in the end zone with Alex Anzalone against Jake Ferguson, and he landed awkwardly on the play. He stayed down on the field for an extended period. He had to be carted off. Anytime you see a guy carted off, that's never a good thing. Branch is one of the best, man. He's 24. He's a one-time Pro Bowler, second-round pick in 2023 out of Alabama. He started all 12 games this season, 75 tackles, 9 passes defensed, 5 quarterback hits. He's one of the top defensive players in the league. And you know what? This is like what I was talking about over the last month. It's like the Niners' playoff viability is going nothing but up because with the bye week, they have less exposure than some of these other teams. One less game, less to play. And none of these teams are going to get better. They're all potentially going to get worse. And we saw, you know, Buffalo lose Ed Oliver. We saw Tucker Kraft go down in Green Bay. Now we're seeing Brian Branch, torn Achilles, done for the year with Detroit. I mean, this is a crushing blow for the Lions. I think the Lions might be one of the best teams left. And, you know, they may not make the playoffs. And even if they do, they're not going to have Branch. Give me your reaction to that one. This is a major injury.
Major injury, and obviously it has a lot of implications on the NFC and the NFC playoff picture. You mentioned Kev being late for the stream. The great Fran Dunphy used to say when I was a student media member at Temple University, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're an asshole. And that is something in my professional life that I have always tried to remember, that if there is a work event, I always try to be on time. Now, I'm not ripping Kev, but I just wanted to pass that along. Maybe it's some inspiration to some people out there.
Yeah. When I worked with the great Gary Radnich, we used to say, because Gary loved to walk in at the last second. And he goes, Krug, if you walk in at the last second, you're cool. If you walk in late, you're an asshole.
Something similar there.
Very similar.
Yeah.
But so there you go.
Going back to the Brian Branch injury, you know, he's a terrific player. What's unfortunate for him is that he was going to be contract extension eligible after this year. And I think that Detroit was going to pay him under this Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell regime. They've really prioritized paying their own players. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. They just gave Aiden Hutchinson a bag. And so what Holmes has done such a great job of is draft and develop. And Dan Campbell obviously has helped develop these players and coach them up. Brian Branch was another example of that, a safety who was really good on that back end, but could make a lot of plays and mix it up around the line of scrimmage. And I saw the injury happen on Thursday, and immediately he goes down, and I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. And then obviously on Friday morning, there's the chatter of that being an Achilles injury, and it sucks if it's torn, if that's the case, because he's a terrific player, but you also worry about the long-term ramifications for him because he was contract extension eligible. How does that impact what Detroit might do after this year? And this is the NFL, though. That is the reality of it. Niner fans know all about this, right? Nick Bosa goes out in week 3, tears his ACL again. He has a long history of ACL injuries, going all the way back to high school, partially torn as a senior. In 2020, he tore an ACL. Now in 2025, he tears another one. Then a couple weeks later, the Niners lose Fred Warner. What these good teams can do because of high-level coaching is find a way to absorb the blows of losing these players, but coach the rest of the team up and still instill belief in the rest of the team with a good culture that even though those players go down, whether it be scheme, play calling, some of the leaders in place, you can find ways to survive these injuries. This is nothing new to Detroit. Detroit last year was one of the most injured teams in football, and they had so many marquee players get hurt last year, yet they still were the number 1 seed in the NFC. This is not new to the Niners. Under Kyle Shanahan, we talked about this. They've been top 10 in injury rate every year outside of 2023, and oftentimes injuries have happened to some of their upper echelon players. And so this impacts Detroit, impacts the NFC playoff picture in a year where it's wide open. But with it being wide open, that's why the Niners have a shot here at 9-4, having won 3 games in a row, coming out of the bye week with the stretch run. That's going to be incredibly fun.
I think we've seen in the last 3 weeks what the Niners' template for success is: get turnovers. The defense is not great, and it's never going to be great, not this year. But they have 7 turnovers in the last 3 games.
Been huge.
And if you get 7 turnovers, you got a chance to win. I mean, look at last night's game. Dallas had more yards. Dallas won the time of possession, but they were -3 in turnovers, and Detroit won the game. So I kind of feel like the 49ers have a really improving special teams unit, which is foreign territory for us. We're not used to saying that, but their Niners special teams is getting better. You got Brock Purdy back. I thought last week he did incredibly well just taking care of the football. 7 throwaways. I thought last week was real growth from Purdy. I think this is the template for him too. It's like, if you don't have it, throw it away. You have a good special teams unit. Punt. Trust your defense. Don't, take care of the football. If Brock Purdy takes care of the football, I think the 49ers are like halfway home to victory. They have to take care of the football. He can't, if he's -2, -3, I mean, it's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. But if the Niners don't get lots of takeaways on defense, so they really can't afford to turn it over on offense. And in this last game, they didn't, and they've got 7 takeaways in the last 3 games. And if they can keep taking the ball away and protecting the ball, even without Warner, even without Bosa, they have a shot. I don't know how big of a shot, but it's a shot.
I agree, because the NFC and the AFC is wide open. I mean, you look at the AFC right now, the number 1 seed is the Denver Broncos. That defense is tremendous, but Bo Nix and that offense has been so up and down. Outside of that, you really don't trust another team in the AFC. You have the Jags in the 3 spot. Buffalo's defense is awful. The Ravens can't stay healthy. Lamar Jackson's hurt once again. The Indianapolis Colts are falling back to reality. And in the NFC, think about all the news that has happened just over the last few days, right? I thought going into last week, the Rams were the best team in the NFC. Then they lose as 10-point favorites against the Panthers on the road, a Panthers team that the Niners dominated despite 3 first-half turnovers. And then I'm thinking, okay, Cowboys are playing really well. Offense is humming. Defense, since the Quinnen Williams trade, it's been much improved. They were looking like the hottest team in the NFC if it wasn't the Rams. And then once December turns around, the big game Dallas Cowboys show up again. And last night on Thursday Night Football, they lose to the Detroit Lions. And so this NFC is completely wide open. And with the Niners being 9-4, there is a chance that they could represent the NFC in Super Bowl 60 at Levi's Stadium because there isn't a great team in the NFL, which adds to the intrigue of the season in both conferences because we really don't know who's going to be playing in February for Super Bowl 60. Any team could honestly make it. And you made a couple of good points there. Like when the Niners lost to the Rams, I had said that the guide for the rest of the year, the offense was going to have to carry this team. The defense was going to have its lumps and bruises, but because they're talent deficient and they don't have a lot of depth, this Niners offense was going to have to carry the load and let this defense catch up and maybe mature over time. And we've seen a little bit of a maturation process from this defense, but what we've also seen is that this offense scored more than 40 points against the Cardinals. They scored 20 against Carolina, but they won by 11, still covered a touchdown spread, and despite 3 turnovers, they still won by 11. And then last week, against Cleveland, a really good defense, they scored 26 points. They've been opportunistic in all of these games. And this defense has improved a little bit. Now, I know that the schedule hasn't been that great, but sometimes confidence can do wonders. Points given up for this Niners defense, 22 against Arizona, 9 against Carolina, 8 against Cleveland. They forced those 7 turnovers in those 3 games during this 3-game winning streak that you had mentioned. And the rushing yards allowed, this has been big because against the Rams, they couldn't control the game. They gave up 36 rushing yards against Arizona, 69 against Carolina, and 138 against Cleveland, but Cleveland couldn't throw the ball. So Robert Saleh has done such a great job all year long of making chicken salad out of chicken shit. And I've been saying for a long time, like, I think he's doing the best defensive coordinator job of anybody in the NFL this year with all of the injuries, all of the youth, all of the new faces. He has just been stellar for this team.
No question. Week 14 is here, and it got underway last night. I wasn't sure as a Niner fan who I should root for between Dallas and Detroit. Detroit got a 14-point win, 44-30 over Dallas, but lost Brian Branch. The Cowboys lost the game, and I saw you tweeted out they have a 9% chance now of making the playoffs.
Yep.
Who should Niner fans have been rooting for last night? Because on one hand, Detroit might be the best team in football. And so, heck, if you could have them miss the playoffs, that would be great. And I know they're closer to the Niners than Dallas. But on the other hand, Dallas, since getting Quinnen Williams, looks like the hottest team in football. And they've got an explosive offense and an improving defense and a really good kicker. I almost kind of like the fact that Dallas looks like they're a 2026 proposition at this point, more than a viable playoff team this year. Who should the Niners fans have been rooting for last night?
Well, it's classic Dallas Cowboys that may be one of their best teams over the last few years. Is a year where I don't think they're going to make the playoffs now. They're 6-6-1. The Niners are the 7 seed, the final wild card spot, and they're already 9-4. So because Dallas got off to the slow start this year, they really dug themselves into a hole that they've been trying to climb out of. They won those 3 games in a row. If they won last night and they were 7-5-1, not only would things be interesting for Dallas in the wild card picture, but also in the NFC East, because the Eagles right now are 8-4. If they were to have lost, or if they do lose on Monday and the Cowboys would have won, you'd be looking at Dallas at 7-5-1, Philadelphia at 8-5. Dallas would have had a realistic shot to win the NFC East, get into the playoffs, and I think be a dangerous team because that offense is electric and the defense much improving. But now with that Dallas loss, I think we can say that the Cowboys are chalked. I mean, they have a 9% chance of making the playoffs. Even with Detroit right now, they are now 8-5 on the year. But again, the Niners, the final wild card team at 9-4, they still have some cushion. The Niners have a better shot to get the number 1 seed than they do the playoffs. And so going into or talking about the craziness of the NFC this year, part of the craziness is there's not a great team. We have no idea who the real Super Bowl contenders are. This thing is completely wide open. Any team can win it, including the 49ers, because there's not a great team on the other side of the bracket in the AFC either. But also, you're looking at these wild card teams right now. You have the Seahawks who have 9 wins. They're a wild card team. The Packers who have 8 wins. They're a wild card team. And the Niners have 9 wins. They're behind the Packers with a 1 win more than Green Bay, but Green Bay has that tie. And so it's been so wacky. I don't think Detroit is the best team in the NFL. I think injuries have hurt them, and I just don't think that offense and defense is quite the same. And that's what happens when you lose a generational play caller in Ben Johnson and you lose a really good defensive coordinator in Aaron Glenn. I think you've seen that this year with Detroit. There's been a step down from where they've been in prior years, because look at what Ben Johnson's doing now with Chicago, right? You lose a guy like Ben Johnson. Now he has the Bears at 9-3. They're having their best season since 2018. And Aaron Glenn, to his credit, the Jets have been playing better a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And so when you lose two coordinators like that, who are that high level as far as coordinators go, really difficult to replace them. But that is a testament to what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have built there, that they're still 8-5 despite all of that and the injuries.
We're just getting it rolling here. Chase Sr. in the house. Hit like and subscribe, everybody. More people will find the stream and the algorithm, but we're always loving being here on a Friday. And usually Chase and I do all Niners, but since Niners are on the bye, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to look ahead to some of these games and talk a little bit about the viability of some of these teams and also look ahead to some of these matchups. Let's hit the one you referenced. Eagles at Chargers, Monday Night Football at SoFi. This is going to be a huge game for both teams. Excuse me. Chargers are 8-4. Eagles are 8-4. Eagles' run defense got gashed last week, 281 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bears ran right through them. The Bears' offensive line took it to the Eagles' defensive line. And now the Eagles have Jalen Carter out he's having procedures on both of his shoulders. The Eagles have given up 898 total yards over their past 2 games, second most allowed over a 2-game span, with Sirianni basically as the head coach. What do you think? I mean, this is kind of a huge one. I was looking at the trend. The Eagles are 13-2 against the number when the line's between +3 and -3 under Sirianni. 19-6 against the spread, including playoffs in that scenario. I would probably lean towards the Eagles here, but the Eagles, I mean, you're up all in the Eagles. Give me your breakdown on the Eagles. I mean, what's going on? They're, last year, excuse me, Saquon had 1,700 yards. This year, it's like around 700 yards. He's down 1,000 yards.
They're not 2,000 yards in the regular season. Yeah, his yards
before the ball like they did.
Down like 1.5 yards. It's crazy.
They're not running it. They're not stopping the run. Their defense isn't the same. They've got Fangio. I know they had a weakness at the corner spot opposite Quinion, but now it seems like things are falling apart for Philadelphia. Give me your thoughts on where the Eagles are as the calendar turns to December here.
Yeah, big one for the Eagles. Jalen Carter going to be out, as you noted, and he's had this shoulder injury that's been lingering all the way back to training camp. He didn't practice the first few practices because of a shoulder problem. Now he got procedures on both shoulders. So he's not right, and he's really the anchor of that defense. And then on the Chargers sideline, it seems like we talk about this every year. They've had a bevy of injuries, and Justin Herbert broke a bone in his non-throwing hand. We're not sure what his status is going to be for Monday night. He has this huge type of cast and brace on his hand, and by the looks of it, it's going to be hard for him to take snaps under center if he plays in this game on Monday. If he can't go, Niner legend Trey Lance will be playing at the quarterback spot for LA. Usually I have a really good pulse on the Eagles, and I have a lot of confidence in knowing what team is going to show up. I have no idea what team is going to show up because this defense started the year not great, and then they improved. They come out of the bye week. They give up 7 points on the road against the Packers, 9 points at home against the Lions. Then the Eagles built a 21-0 lead over the Dallas Cowboys 2 weeks ago. They give up 24 unanswered. And yardage-wise, I think it was their worst defensive game of the season. Then last week, this Eagles defense under Vic Fangio has not gotten bullied a lot. Last year, they were the number 1 overall defense in the NFL. They got bullied. And the running scheme from Ben Johnson was so creative, so exotic, so dynamic, and so physical. I love what John Middlecoff says. He says Ben Johnson is like the Midwestern Kyle Shanahan, where you think about Shanahan, you think about McVay, you think about Ben Johnson, and you're like, pass happy, a lot of fun, modern concepts, creativity. All 3 of those coaches want to run the football, and they want to be physical. And Ben Johnson's team last Black Friday was extremely physical, and they bullied this Eagles team. And so the Eagles, the last 2 games on defense, have not been able to stop the run. The secondary has been pretty damn good. The biggest story with the Eagles is their offense. I mean, they've been lost all year. The same issues that we're talking about right now, we were talking all the way back in week 1. They're not explosive. They can't run it. Saquon Barkley's yards before contact is down 1.5 yards from last year. His yards after contact also down. This Eagles offensive line took so much pride in playing physical and bully ball last year. They've been bullied this year. They've been bad. They've been injured. Jalen Hurts' numbers are really good, but obviously he has to play better. The play caller, Kevin Patullo, doesn't have a good play calling feel, play calling rhythm. And so the Eagles' backs are kind of against the wall right now. And a lot of Eagles fans are worried that this 2025 team is going to collapse like they did in 2023, which started with that blowout loss to the Niners in Philly when they lost 6 of 7 games to end the year. And so I could see the Eagles playing really well on Monday and putting it together. I could see them getting blown out, and then we're like, man, they're going to choke this thing away again. But I have no idea what team is going to show up because all year they've been Jekyll and Hyde.
You know, the one thing that I think you're going to see in this game is I think Amarion Hampton's coming back and Kamani Vidal and the Eagles or the Chargers are going to try to run it down the Eagles' throat. The Eagles' defensive front ranks 27th in the NFL in run block win rate. 27th. That's shocking.
Yeah, the offensive line.
Well, no, that Philly's defensive front ranks 27th in run block win rate.
Well, their offensive line is like in that bottom third too, as far as run block win rate. It's insane. Yeah.
Well, it's a huge game for the Chargers. If the Chargers win this game, they got a 60% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Their chances, or I should say right now they do. If they win the game, their chances jump to 74%. If they lose the game, it falls to 50%.
Okay.
So this is a big game for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Do you think Hampton's going to be healthy in that game? I mean, he's on my fantasy team. I'm wondering if I should pull him off the IR for this game against the Eagles.
Yeah, you know, he's been practicing. That'd be a big boost for them. I think he's going to try to give it a go. And if he can play and you lose Justin Herbert, at least you might be able to rely on that running game if you're Jim Harbaugh.
This is do or die for the Chiefs. This is it. Chiefs at home. They're 6-6. They're 3.5-point favorites against the Texans, who are 7-5. Mahomes' is 5-1 career against the Texans, including the playoffs. This is huge for Kansas City, though. I mean, absolutely huge. I'm looking at the percentages here. If the Chiefs win, they only have a 55.2% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, 12.1%. So Texans have a 77, almost 78% chance of making the playoffs with a win. It falls to 37.6% with a loss. So it's a huge game for both the Texans with their killer D and the Chiefs. What do you think? I mean, are the Chiefs going to miss the playoffs? What do you think? Are the Texans going to put the final nail in the coffin in the Chiefs?
They could, and it's funny because going
National
into Thursday, I thought Dallas was playing the best out of any team in the NFC, and they wouldn't be in the playoffs if the season were to have ended that day. And I thought on the AFC side, the Texans were playing the best football of any team in the AFC, and they're on the outside currently looking in. And so this is a massive game for Houston. Their defense has been incredible all year. That's a testament to the defensive unit that D'Amico Ryans has been able to build and coach up. And it's a big game for CJ Stroud because after a really good rookie year, wasn't great last year, hasn't been great this year, came off that concussion last week, wasn't that good. Davis Mills won 3 games in a row. Some Texans fans were saying on our Texans channel here at Chat Sports, like, you got to roll with the hot hand and Davis Mills for the rest of the year, but you're not going to give up on CJ Stroud right now, and you're going to play him if he's healthy. So it's big in that case for Houston. And then for Kansas City, it's do or die time. Like, if you lose this game in a crowded AFC as far as records go, where they have some work to do just to be a wild card team, they're not going to win the AFC West because the Broncos are there. If they lose, this is going to be shocking. I think it's been 6 of the last 7 years where the Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship game. 5 of the last 6 years, they played in the Super Bowl. And so to not see Kansas City in January, February, it'd be a massive surprise compared to what we've grown accustomed to.
Maybe the game of the weekend is Bears-Packers at Lambeau. Bears are 9-3. They're hot. They've won 9 of 10. Packers are 8-3-1. They've had ownership on the Bears through the years. Ben Johnson this week, was talking about how the Bears win games. He's like, we're winning games in spite of our passing game, not because of it, which is kind of a rip on Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams only completed 47% last week against the Eagles. They ran the hell out of it.
He's under 60% for the year.
Yeah, and now you got Green Bay, and the Bears are running the ball. I mean, the Bears are really running the ball, and Green Bay just lost Devontae Wyatt for the year with an ankle injury. He's their best run defender. They traded Kenny Clark to Dallas in the Parsons trade, so they're leaning now on the interior of guys like Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks, and I don't know, man. Is Chicago going to run right through Green Bay? This is a huge game for Green Bay. They have a 71% chance to win the NFC North if they win. It drops to 27% with the loss. Christian Watson's been great over the last 3 games for Green Bay. Packers are 1-6 against the spread, 4-2-1 outright when they lay at least 6 points this season. What do you think? Bears or Packers at Lambeau?
I can't wait for this game, and I have a rare Sunday where I'm not going to be in the studio because the Niners have a bye and the Eagles play on Monday night, so I will have my full attention on this game. And it's huge for Sunday, but the Bears and Packers play 2 times over the next 3 weeks. That could very well decide the NFC North, and depending on what happens in those games and for the remaining schedules of Chicago and Green Bay, there is a reality in which the Detroit Lions, who are on the outside looking in, could actually climb up the NFC and the NFC North standings here, because it is not a cupcake for the rest of the year for either the Bears or the Packers. And these 2 matchups are obviously going to be huge. These 2 teams absolutely hate each other, but the Packers' remaining schedule: Bears at home, on the road against the Broncos, Bears in Chicago, Ravens at home, Vikings on the road. And then the Bears' remaining schedule, they have on the road against Green Bay, home against Cleveland. That won't be a cupcake. They go home against Green Bay, or did I say that right? So Chicago is on the road in Green Bay, home against Cleveland, home against
Green Bay,
or
home against Niners,
on the road against the Niners.
Yeah.
And then they round out with Detroit in week 18. Right. So this NFC North is crazy. This NFC North is wide open. As far as the particular matchup, I kind of like Chicago here. I said this last week. They were touchdown underdogs against the Eagles. And I'm like, how is that possible? The Eagles are playing like shit. The Bears are rolling right now. They're feeling very confident. I smashed Chicago +7. Now they're touchdown underdogs again against Green Bay. And I think that the Bears match up very well against the Packers because of something that you alluded to: their physicality and their run game. This Packers team has been susceptible against the run at a couple of different moments this year. And this Bears running scheme is extremely creative, extremely innovative, and very dynamic. And I just like how the Bears' physicality matches up. Now, the big question is, how is this Bears defense going to play? Because statistically all year, they haven't been great. What they have been, though, is very opportunistic. They have forced a league-leading 26 turnovers this year, and oftentimes they've been able to turn those giveaways into points. And so I think both these games come down to the wire. Chicago is now 6-1 this year in 1-score games. We've nicknamed them here at Chat Sports. We're selling shirts, the Cardiac Bears, because they get your heart rate growing late in games. And I can't wait to see these games play out between Green Bay and Chicago because of the implications in the NFC North, but the fact that they play 2 times in the next 3 weeks.
It's gonna be juicy because the Bears have owned the Packers have owned the Bears, but you know what? That was a different era, and now the Bears are really rolling. And as you said, Green Bay struggling to stop the run. How about Rams-Cardinals this weekend? Rams are 9-3, Cardinals are 3-9. Rams 8.5-point favorites. Cardinals are 0-8 against teams that entered their games with a winning record. Most losses in the NFL, according to ESPN research. And Cardinals are bad. The Rams are coming off a game where they're struggled and they lost to Carolina. The Rams are probably going to cover this number pretty easily, I would think. How do you see Rams-Cardinals? Do the Rams cover the 8.5? And like, what do you make of the Rams? I mean, the Rams have the highest 30% chance, the highest chances of making the number one seed in the NFC. Stafford's incredible, but it's all based on, does he turn it over? And last week he turned it over and they lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, how do you see Rams-Cardinals? Cardinals are good in this spot as an underdog, 14-6 against the number in their past 20 games as an underdog.
Everybody was saying the Rams were the Super Bowl favorite in the NFL going into last weekend. What do? They go on the road and they lose as 10-point favorites against Carolina. So they lost that game as 10-point favorites against Carolina. Then back in week 5, they lost as 8.5-point favorites against the Niners. So with the Rams, they're a tough team to gauge because the talent is there. The coaching is there. The eye test is there. When you watch them, you say, wow, this is a really dynamic team and they're really fun to watch. But they've had a really easy schedule. Their best win this year is against the Colts. And I know the Colts got off to that really good start. They haven't been that great over the last month, and they're starting to free fall in the AFC. So I do think the Rams win this game. And I know that Arizona hasn't won since that Dallas game. And since starting 2-0, they have only one win since then. It's against the Cowboys. One thing they've been, though, all year is a very feisty team. And in an NFC West divisional rival game, like, anything crazy can happen. Nobody thought Carolina was going to win that game with how bad they looked against the Niners. And then in a game that featured 5 different lead changes, Carolina pulls off the stunning upset. Anything can happen in the NFL. And you know what's crazy, Larry? If the Rams lose and the Seahawks lose, they play the Falcons, the Niners can go from the 7 seed to the 2 seed without playing a game this weekend.
Let's talk about that Seahawks game. They're 9-3. They've been great on the road. They're 7-point favorites in Atlanta against the Falcons, who are 4-8. But, I don't know. This one makes me, I think Atlanta might have a shot in this game. Darnold's not playing great. He's coming off the worst performance of the season. He had an 18.3 total QBR. They couldn't handle the Viking pressure last week.
Max Brosmer turned it over 4 times in that game.
I know. Yeah. They Vikings sent an extra rusher at Darnold 60% of the dropbacks. And after being sacked only 11 times in the first 11 games, they sacked him 4 times in this game. And Atlanta's second in the league in blitz rate under Jeff Ulbrich. So they're going to get pressure on Darnold, and Darnold is terrible with pressure. I mean, he's just a totally different player. Without pressure, he's maybe one of the best quarterbacks going. With pressure, he's going to turn it over. So I don't know. How do you see Seahawks on the road? 9-3 against 4-8 says Seahawks are going to win and probably cover, but something tells me the Falcons are going to fire in this game.
Big game Sam is like December Dak. When the lights get bright and the pressure is on, Sam Darnold struggles. Dak Prescott struggles. Some guys have it, some guys don't. And it's not just the pressure that you allude to that's from the opposing defense. It's the pressure and the magnitude of the moment. In the last 2 games for Minnesota last year, when Sam Darnold was an MVP candidate, they got blitzed by Detroit, and then they got annihilated in the playoffs by the Los Angeles Rams. In some big games this year, the one against the Rams, he threw 4 picks. Last week against Minnesota, when Minnesota, led by Brian Flores, great defensive mind, dialed up a lot of pressure, Darnold did not perform well. Against Tampa Bay, another really big game earlier this year, Darnold threw a bad pick late in that game, which led to a Buccaneers field goal and win. And you look ahead to week 18, what are we going to see? We're going to see Seahawks on the road against the Niners. Levi's Stadium is going to be lit. It's going to be the final week of the season. The NFC West crown could be up for grabs. One of the best seeds in the NFC could be up for grabs. And we're going to see another big game Sam Darnold moment. Will he rise up or will he have another hiccup? We'll see. Atlanta's defense, a lot better than last year. Jeff Ulbrich has done a better job of generating pressure with that defense. The issue with Atlanta is the offense. Kirk Cousins looks really bad. Their coaching staff is an absolute mess. They're one of the hardest teams to watch. But if they do play their A game and they pull off an upset, that would be huge for San Francisco.
All right, let's get into a couple angles on the Niners. what do you make of the Aiyuk story? I mean, Aiyuk, it's weird. It's like the Niners are like, well, we took away his guaranteed money, but then Shanahan's like, we hope he plays, and Lynch is like, well, we're hopeful. And what's going on here with Brandon Aiyuk? Do the Niners not want Brandon Aiyuk? Does Brandon Aiyuk not want the Niners? Does Lynch and Shanahan, are they separated in this situation from Jed and Parag? I don't know. It's really weird. The Aiyuk story just doesn't add up on so many fronts. The Niners have made it seem like, they love him and everything, but I don't know. It just seems like you took away all of his guaranteed money. Why the heck would he ever consider playing for you? I can't figure it out. Are they trying to trade him and spot him in a game? Are they trying to keep him out of playing so he doesn't get hurt again, so they're not on the hook for more of more guarantees from an injury perspective? I mean, I don't get it. Give me your read on Aiyuk. What's the truth? What's the story?
What's crazy too is that according to Mike Silver and Diana Rossini with that bombshell report a couple of Fridays ago, Brandon Aiyuk isn't even fighting this with the NFL Players Association. So that tells me that he's desperate to go somewhere else. And oh, how fast his stock has fallen with the Niners. He gets drafted in 2020 in the first round. And if you remember, I know that you do because you go to practices, press conferences, and you're in the press box for games. That offseason, that summer, due to COVID rules, there were limited training camp practices. There were no preseason games, yet Brandon Aiyuk, as a rookie, raw player, a lot of injuries for that Niners team, still led the team in receiving yards. Very productive. There was that one touchdown where he hurdled over Marcus Epps in that primetime game against the Eagles, and you're like, wow, the Niners have a player. 2021 comes around, and there was all that chatter about Aiyuk being in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. But once he comes out of the doghouse and embraces being a blocker, which is what Kyle Shanahan wants from his wide receivers, he was a huge reason why the Niners turned it around from starting the year 3-5 and made it to the NFC Championship game that year. Then the following season in 2022, he has a career year. He goes over 1,000 yards, and he starts to emerge as a borderline top 10, top 15 wideout in the game. Then in 2023, he has a career season, and he's a second-team All-Pro. And he develops into one of the best, most pristine, filthiest route runners in the NFL. He had the iconic play in the NFC Championship game when he caught that ball off the helmet of that Lions defender. And then he doesn't get targeted as much as he should have in that Super Bowl. Spencer Burford doesn't block Chris Jones. If he does, Aiyuk ran a filthy route, would have been open for a potential game-winning touchdown for San Francisco in that Super Bowl. And literally right after the Super Bowl happens, his camp starts ruffling feathers. One of his boys puts on social media, Aiyuk going to Vegas, and that started the fall of Brandon Aiyuk. Countless cryptic social media posts, a messy contract negotiation. There were times where he was putting TikToks up of him FaceTiming with Jaden Daniels saying the Niners don't want him any longer. Then he put up practice tape of Jaden Daniels. He went on the pivot and said, if I didn't play for the Niners, I'd love to play for the Commanders. There was the time where he tweeted directly at Mike Tomlin, and the holdout lasted and lingered, and it got sour. Then the Niners pay him $120 million, $76 million in guaranteed money, $30 million per year. He got a bag, Larry, and he was still unhappy. Prior to that, the Niners wanted to trade him to the Patriots, to the Browns. Aiyuk didn't want to go there. So part of this is his fault. He could have gone somewhere else. He signed the contract. Then to start the year, after missing all of training camp in the preseason, he was out of shape. He performed poorly, and then he suffered the knee injury. And from that point forward, we haven't really seen him. There have been more cryptic social media posts. He ran some routes prior to the year. There was that baloney report that he was in the meeting rooms and he was helping wide receivers. But he's been a bad teammate. He's handled the situation poorly. I think he's gotten bad advice. And I know some people have tried to compare this to the Nick Bosa situation. Nick Bosa has been rehabbing away from the Niners. Brandon Aiyuk wanted to rehab away from the Niners. There's a difference between these two players. Nick Bosa is the consummate pro. He lives and breathes football. He is a pillar of this organization. He's a team captain, and he's a leader. Brandon Aiyuk is not a team leader. Brandon Aiyuk is not a team captain. And he is pissed off this organization on numerous occasions because of what he said, how he's acted. There was the time at practice after he got the contract where he got undressed on the practice field because he was wearing the wrong attire. Would a leader do that like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, or George Kittle or Trent Williams? No chance. They would wear the proper uniform to practice. And so I think Aiyuk is to blame here. And to me, it's telling that he's not willing to fight this with the NFLPA. And if he's not showing up to team functions and he's not rehabbing with the team and the communication is poor, I can see why the Niners want to gain some leverage here. And they're like, you know what? We're going to void the guarantees in your 2026 contract that helps them get out of a deal that they seem to have regretted right from the moment. And this has ended up being an awful contract for the Niners. Now, they're pretty much going to pay him, I think, $31 million for 7 games played last year. But they are going to open up about $25 million in cap space for next year and 80 plus over the next few years. So that's going to be a win for the Niners. But there's no other way to put it. This has been a disaster. And I think the Niners just want this Aiyuk situation to go away. And I think Ayuk's over it as well. And I don't think he's going to play for San Francisco again.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think he's going to play anymore this year. I think they're going to trade him in the offseason, I think, or release him. And I think for sure he's moving on. This is a great moment for me. The Niners took one of my quotes and they put it in their video. I want to show it to you. I got to get a tissue, so I'm going to play this for a second. I'll duck out, and I'll be right back in just a second. But here it is. Here's the beginning of this. Check out this video and look what the Niners did in this thing. They actually took one of my quotes from one of my streams and put it in here. This is pretty cool.
There's an old saying, just give us a blade of grass and we'll do our best to defend it. And we expect to take advantage of our opportunities. We expect to be relentless, violent. Those are the individuals who will strain all the way through, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the down and distance is, no matter what the score is. We've got a locker room full of individuals that are going to do everything they can to win every down.
It's all about momentum. You know, how can we keep it going? And we had a good outing, obviously, back in Arizona, but, you know, that's last week. So for us, it's how can we keep going as an offense, as defense, special teams, and put together a team win. Obviously, everybody knows November and December football is huge, especially going into playoffs and everything. So for us, you know, this is a huge one. A lot is on the line, and we all want to go out and show out for each other, but more than anything, our fan base, man, get that place rocking, get Levi's rocking. This is what it's all about.
Monday Night Football, Levi Stadium. Get your mind right.
Monday night, big opportunity. Don't get better than this. Hey, man, got a party on Monday Night Football. Keep that camera rolling. Let's go.
This game is huge, huge. Monday night's big. Monday night's big. It's all about just getting in, right? Just get in, and then you see what happens from there. But if you want to get in, you better beat Carolina, and you better beat the Bears. How sweet was that, dude? I mean,
Awesome.
that is. I think that's one of the cooler things I've ever had somebody pick off from my show, and then Niner Studios do some cool stuff. I played it on one of the streams I did earlier this week, not knowing that they used a soundbite from me, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, I'm listening to it, and I'm like, wait a second, that's me. They pulled that, and I don't know exactly what stream that was, but that was cool. That was pretty cool.
They didn't ask you for permission. Oh my gosh.
They didn't. Oh.
No, that's awesome. So a lot of people know me as an NFL content creator. I've actually appeared on Designated Survivor. I've done some voiceover work for a Doc Rivers Netflix documentary and a Reggie Jackson documentary. And I've done some acting, and I've played for the Harlem Globetrotters. And like, you do those things. Yeah. You do those things, and you're like, in the moment, it feels awesome. And then you actually like see yourself on camera, or you hear your voice, and then you see yourself in the credits, and you're like, holy shit, that's really cool. Especially when they add like all of the production elements to it with the music, the transitions, and then obviously the production team crushing it with some of the camera angles and the camera shots. That kind of gave me the chills. I'm not going to lie.
Well, you know, there's the Niners and the Giants also, you know, some being on KMBR, there have been times where I'm walking through the stadium and I hear myself in something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Usually pregame or postgame, Giants or not. And there's something about hearing yourself like echoing through the stadium that's
No
like,
doubt.
whoa, kind of an eye opener.
NFL films, you grow up, you hear like John Facenda. You hear Harry Callis, who is actually a Phillies broadcaster who I grew up listening to. And he's like, welcome to Veterans Stadium, Eagles, Cowboys, week 15. And it's just like gets the juices flowing, man. It gets you pumped up.
Oh my God. I can't even, I don't, do I dare tell you my Harry Callis story? So Harry Callis,
he's my broadcasting idol as a kid.
Yeah, and he's no longer with us, but
No.
he was the voice of NFL films after John Facenda.
Yep.
And so Larry Anderson, I think, might have been one of his partners. I forget exactly all of his partners, but he was in town. He smoked like a chimney.
Yes.
And which
a lot
is
of
why
cigarettes and whiskey for Harry back in the day.
Yeah, Harry was old school. So I duck into the Phillies broadcast booth, and I'm like, Mr. Callis, my name's Larry Kruger. I work for KBR. I'd love to do a sit down with you. And he's smoking his cigarette and everything, and he's like, and he's just the nicest guy ever. And he's like, absolutely, Larry, come on in. So I sit down, and I'm like, a buddy of mine, Harry, does so many of your so many impersonations of you, and he's, I'm like, yeah, he's always talking about Mickey Morandini,
Morandini,
Dutch Dalton, and all these guys, and
Bobby Abreu.
Bobby Abreu. Let me tell you, Mickey Morandini.
Yeah.
But Harry Callis, as great of an announcer as he was even a sweeter, nicer man. Oh my God, he could not have been nicer. And we sat there in the booth for about a half hour and did a long interview with him, played it on KMBR. I remember the program director said, how'd you get Harry Callis to do a half hour with you? I'm like, I just went up there and we started rapping, and I said, how much time you got? He's like, as much time as you need, kid. And that's all he said. And we just started rapping. So I'm a huge Harry
Can we
Callis
get the KNBR archives and pull this back up? That would be incredible.
I'd love to. I got to see if I can dig that up because, I had an interview. I've got so many great interviews through the years with different announcers and different people that I would love. And that's one of them. But he is just what a sweetheart of a guy.
It's funny. One more. I have a story too, because when the Phillies first built their stadium, Citizens Bank Park, back in like 2004, the players and team personnel, they would park in this parking garage, which now is overgrown by ivy. But then you could see into the parking garage. And so as kids, we would go there to try to get players to sign autographs because we would see them walking to their cars. Harry Callis, every single time, stopped to sign, even if he was smoking a cigarette. And I have multiple baseballs signed by him. And sometimes we would ask him to do a call, and he would do a call. Other times he'd be like, man, I was just broadcasting for like 4 hours. I'm not trying to do it. But he would do the legendary, like, swing it and drive. It's out of here. And we'd be like, yeah, thank you, Harry. Thank you, Harry.
Oh, dude, he was such an incredible guy.
Yeah.
So sweet, so nice, and obviously great. I mean, what an announcer, what a talent. So he's telling me this story about how him and Anderson are in the booth, and I think it might have been Richie Ashburn. I forget who exactly it was, but somebody started talking about this pizza place in Philly. Oh, this place is so good. And the pizza place was listening because the games are on IP and everybody can hear them. And they sent a couple pizzas to the booth. And I forget who. Harry starts telling the story that as the season went on, anytime they got hungry, they would just start talking up this pizza place, and pizzas would arrive.
That's incredible.
And he's like, it was, he's like, that was quite a gig we had going on there, Larry.
Way to flex your muscles.
Yeah. I mean, Harry Callis, unbelievable. All right, couple more last ones on the Niners. What do you expect to see from the Niners the rest of the way? Are they going to is it going to be hit and miss where they win one, lose one, and that kind of thing? Are they going to run the table? They're 12-point favorites against the Titans. They're 2.5-point favorites against everybody else the rest of the way. They're favored in every game the rest of the way. 3 out of the next 4 of the last 4 here are going to be at Levi's. They're actually kind of better on the road, to believe it or not. But what do you think? What do you expect from the 49ers the rest of the way?
So I think what they have to do is they have to be an opportunistic football team like we've seen during this 3-game winning streak, where they are forcing turnovers and the defense is in this bend but do not break type of mentality. And then on offense, they have to score a lot of points and they have to capitalize when they get in the red zone. Because they're talent deficient, because they lack depth, because they're so injured, I think the best way to characterize this football team right now is that the margin for error is very thin. When they play their best football, I think they can beat anybody in the NFL any given week. But if they're the team that's making the mistakes and the other team capitalizes on those mistakes because the Niners don't have a lot of room for error, that's when they could lose some of these games. And so I think they're going to beat Tennessee. They're going to have to play an excellent game on the road against Indianapolis. Both teams are going to be desperate. The defense is going to be tested by the Chicago Bears. Then the final week of the year, sometimes personnel doesn't matter in a divisional game because the two teams know each other so well. So Niners Seahawks could come down to execution. But I think there are a couple of foundational elements here that have to take place the rest of the year. The defense is going to have to force turnovers. They're going to have to force field goals instead of touchdowns when teams get into the red area. And the offense is going to have to average around 30 points per game while playing clean. If they do that with one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, Niners have as good of a shot as anybody, I think, right now.
Is Fred Warner going to make it back? Or do you think that's a pipe dream?
I think it's a pipe dream.
I do.
He just started doing underwater treadmill running last week, and I think he just shed the boot this week. And so we're expecting him to be in football shape in a month and a half. I just don't see how that's going to happen. Now, if they make it to the Super Bowl, you might have to scratch and claw to keep him off the field. That would be in February. That's in 2 months from now. Maybe at that point he could play. But outside of that, I think it's a pipe dream.
Roger Craig for the Hall of Fame. Are we going to see it this year? Roger Craig has been named a senior finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know, we may get I don't know if we're going to get it, but I'm rooting for Niners Patriots. I would love to see Niners Patriots. My nephew's a big Patriots fan. I just think it would be really cool if in that Super Bowl week that we get Niners Patriots here in San Francisco and that AMC documentary voiced by Tom Brady on the 49ers airs, I believe February 3rd, right before Super Bowl week. If we also get Roger Craig, and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft all elected for the Hall of Fame. I mean, that is going to be, to me, the NFL seems like they like to do that. They like to have the home team have something great to cheer about when it comes to the Hall of Fame. I hope this is the year. Roger Craig belongs in that Hall of Fame, Chase. I know you're a young guy who didn't necessarily see a lot of Roger Craig, but Roger Craig numbers, if Jerry Rice were on the Eagles right now, Saquon Barkley wouldn't have had the stats that he had last year. Jerry Rice was the greatest statistical being the league's ever seen. Yeah. And we have all these analytics people in sports now that can analyze all kinds of things. And I don't understand why nobody can analyze. There's no football analytics person that can sit there and say, hey, look, if Jerry Rice had 150 yards, Roger Craig probably didn't get the ball as much. Jerry Rice's dominance statistically suppressed the dominance of the guys that he played with. Brent Jones, Ricky Waters, Roger Craig, John Taylor, they're all better than their stats because of Jerry being a stats whore. And I'm not saying that anything wrong about that. Jerry was Jerry and he was the greatest. But Jerry was fueled by insecurity about losing what he had. He needed the ball. where Roger Craig was a team first guy who was totally happy with just winning. And I think because of that personality, it was easy for Walsh and Seifert after Walsh to kind of go away from Roger and go to Jerry Moore and feed into that ego that Jerry needed to have fed. And I just think Roger's numbers are, because of it, the most suppressed of almost any player. He has almost more receiving yards than Lynn Swann, and Lynn Swann was a receiver and he's a running back. He has better numbers than Andre Reed, including 3 Super Bowl wins. Andre Reed's in there with no Super Bowl wins. I mean, this has got to end. The biggest ridiculousness is that the Steelers dynasty of the 1970s is represented in the Hall of Fame by 14 Hall of Famers. The Niners Hall of Fame dominance, which went from the 80s to the mid-90s, they're represented by 7. They got to have more than half of what the Steelers have. So Roger belongs in. I think it's long overdue. If Walsh hadn't died, I think he would have been in long ago. But what do you think? Is this the year that we look beyond the fumble in the 1990 NFC Championship game and say Roger Craig was a Hall of Famer?
I know that I wasn't even a thought when Roger Craig was in his prime, but
Right.
I love the game of football. I love the history of football. And I think it can be solved with this simple question and answer. Is Roger Craig one of the best players in the history of the National Football League? Yes. And not only did he put up numbers, not only did he come before his time as a dual threat player, but there was also longevity to his greatness and his game, which I do believe goes into a player's individual greatness. And that's why I continue to say that a guy like Frank Gore, who's 3rd all time in the history of the NFL in rushing yards, is a Hall of Fame player. And I think that he should get in. Now, was Frank Gore the best running back in the NFL when he was putting up great production? No. But how many 1,000-yard seasons did he have? And the longevity of how good he was for so long led to the overall production in a league that stands for not for long and at a position where usually you get burnt out in your late 20s, early 30s. And Frank Gore defied that. And so with Roger Craig, 3-time Super Bowl champion, NFL Offensive Player of the Year in 1988, first-team All-Pro in 1988, a second-team All-Pro in 1985, a 4-time Pro Bowler. A player with a resume like that needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Another thing, too, can you write the history of the league without Roger Craig? I don't think that you can. Lastly, think about how crazy this Christian McCaffrey season is, right? He's on pace for over 1,000 rushing yards and over 1,000 receiving yards. Along those lines, think about how different the game of football was in 1985. Well, Roger Craig in 1985 had 1,050 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns, and he had 92 catches for 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. That was a Christian McCaffrey type of season. That year, he was the second-team All-Pro. Incredible player, long overdue, should be in the Hall of Fame. And in the year where the Niners host the Super Bowl, hopefully this is the year that he gets into camp.
He belongs. He belongs. All right. We waited too long, but I want to do the sleeper lineup before we get out of here. And of course, Sleeper is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We'll put this on the board. Everybody can see this. Get a $100 deposit match up to $100. Use code Larry. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right. We always go with the sleeper lineup. If you haven't signed up for Sleeper yet, now's the perfect time. Use my code to get a free $20 no deposit required deal from them. Plus, first-time users still also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100, and you'll give yourself a shot to 1,000 times to win 1,000 times your cash. Even better, anyone who trails this community-built slip gets a chance to win $100 to use on Sleeper. Just send a screenshot of your slip with these picks to hmasleeperpicks@gmail.com. And include your Sleeper username in the email to enter. Okay. We're running this every week in the month of December, so do not miss out. And thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. So we're going to do our Help Me Build My Slip segment. And we're going to collaborate with you guys, the viewers, to create an entry. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the picks, and break down what stands out. And then we're actually going to involve the chat today. We'll ask you your thoughts as we go, and then we'll narrow it down to 3 to 4 legs, community built-up slip, and we'll display the final slip on the screen. So here we go. A little confusing, but not all that confusing. All right, here we go. All right, so who do we want to go with in this game? What game are we going with? Here? Are we going to go with? We have no Niner game, so why don't we go with? Let's go with the Bears Packers. Kind of like Bears Packers, or do you want to go Eagles? Maybe we'll go Eagles Chargers.
We could do that.
Chase.
Bears Packers is a great game too, though. I
right.
wonder what the rushing numbers are for Bears Packers.
Let's go to Bears Packers, and then we'll go to that game, and then we'll see what we have as far as options. There it is right there. Okay. So who do you want to pick here?
Let's see.
Josh Jacobs, Caleb Williams, Kyle Monangi, Jordan Love, Christian Watson's been hot, DeAndre Swift.
What are Monangai and Swift's rushing totals?
All right, let's take a look at Monangi and see what it is. The Rutgers back. So he's got 12.5 I
like more than 45.
Longest run. You more than 45.5 rush yards?
Yep.
Okay, let's go more on that on Kyle Monangi. I love Monangi. He's been terrific. All right, let's take a look at Christian Watson, because Watson's been really good, and I think Watson's going to get the ball a lot in this game. I like more. Well, do I go anytime touchdown? I think maybe longest reception of 25 yards for Christian Watson. He's kind of a down the field threat. They take some big shots down the field, so I'm going to go more than 24.5. I think he has a 30-yard catch in the game. So that's Watson. Let's go back. Is there another? Caleb has not been turning it over.
No.
169 passing yards is not a lot. Let's take a look at Caleb's numbers. Or you want to go Eagles? We can go Eagles.
We can do that.
Go Eagles, Chargers. Who do you like in the Eagles, Chargers? Do you have a conviction on anybody? Hampton's kind of coming back from an injury, so he might not be good.
I like Saquon anytime touchdown.
Okay, let's go with a Saquon anytime touchdown. There we go. And now let's see if we can go over to the chat and see if we can find somebody. We got this one from Jan Chose. He says over under 110 passing yards on Jalen Hurts.
What are his numbers?
Let's see what Hurts' passing numbers look like.
183.5.
Yeah, 183.5.
Longest completion isn't bad.
He doesn't throw picks. Maybe how about less than the half a pick? You know, he never doesn't seem like he throws picks. Which one did you like?
Longest completion 32.5, because he does have a good deep ball.
Okay. Let's go with that. We'll go more than 32.5 on longest completion. Thank you, Jan Chose. Let's see if we have another. Should we get another one in the chat here? Let's see.
How about Houston KC? Another good game.
Houston KC. Let's take a look at Houston KC. Okay. Let's see. Mahomes. Let's take a look at Mahomes' numbers. You got to think Mahomes is going to have a game, right? Big game. Yeah. More than 258.5 pass and rush yards. 34.5 pass attempts. I think he's got 2 passing touchdowns, don't you think?
Houston's defense is so good.
Oh, it's Houston. Yeah, it's Houston.
Oh, how about this? Since Houston's defensive line is good, the more than 20.5 rushing yards, he's going to have to bail out of the pocket and maybe make some plays happen with his legs.
Yeah, I like that. It'll probably take 2 runs, maybe 3 runs to get that done. But let's go more on the rush yards there. Okay. We'll go more than 20.5 rush yards for Mahomes. All right, there you go. Let's take a look at our lineup. Wow, we got 5 there. You got Monangi, more than 45.5 rush yards. You have Watson, more than 24.5 longest reception. Saquon, He's got to score a touchdown. Jalen Hurts' longest completion has to be at least 33 yards, and Mahomes has to have at least 21 rush yards. And if it all happens, we're betting 5
to win 88.
5 to win 88. Ooh, that's nice. That's nice. I like that. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Sleeper is an outstanding sponsor, and they do some amazing stuff. And we should tell you, big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. Help support the show. Get you rolling on the #1 sports app, and it is a ton of fun. And thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And finally, before we get out of here, we should mention our good friends at Habbas Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Habbas Law does some amazing things. HabbasLaw.com on the web. They will fight to make it right. 1-800-INJURED, HABBAS law.com. They beat the insurance companies all the time. Omar Habbas, Tariq Habbas, and the Habbas Law team. They dominate. They dominate the insurance companies. That's why you want to be with them. If you've been injured and you want to win, there's only one call to make. Visit HabbasLaw.com. Habbas Law, they will fight to make it right. 1-800-INJURED. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We do have one super here at the end. Derek Holman says, are you scared of an Eagles matchup in the playoffs? How do you see, what would it be like if we got Niners-Eagles in the playoffs, Chase?
Depends on what Eagles team you get. I think that the Niners offense led by Kyle Shanahan could cause some fits for the Eagles defense. I do worry about how the Eagles defensive line could cause havoc against the Niners offensive line. But if the offense for Philadelphia continues to sputter, I think the Niners could pull off the upset and win that game in Philly. I do.
Wow.
Or at Levi's, which is a possibility too. They could get the better seed.
What if that happened? I mean, if that happened, that would just be absolutely wild.
Yeah.
We did have, Kev said, if we had somebody drop their pick in the chat, we'll add it in. We did have a guy who said,
Jan Chose.
Yeah, we had Jan Chose who went with his thing. And we also had somebody else who had one, but we didn't get to it. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. We had Collins anytime touchdown from Howdy, but Howdy's next
Nico.
up.
Nico Collins.
For Nico Collins. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Chase, what do you got cooking during the bye week? No Niners watch party. That frees you up for a few hours, huh?
Yeah, for sure. So earlier today, I put up an updated look at the Niners playoff picture, what they kind of have to do to maintain position in the NFC wild card and playoff hunt. Going to put out some Niners draft targets. I saw you had done a draft related video. Good time to hit that during the bye week. And then probably do a recap on Sunday of kind of what happens across the NFL. So all that content and more on the 49ers Report.
Do you have a favorite draft prospect? I saw Matt Campbell went to Penn State. I saw you tweeted about that. He left Iowa State to go to Penn State. So Mr. Brock Purdy, former coach, is now going to Happy Valley. But is there a college player that you love as a fit for the 49ers? Because for me, I'm starting to get into it now, and I do have several that I really like, but is there one that stands out to you? Offense, defense, anybody that you think, man, that would be a great 49er?
Yeah, a couple. I think Caleb Downs would be an unbelievable safety under Robert Saleh. If we're talking offensive lineman, Vega Giovanni, the guard for Penn State, is a straight up mauler. I'd really like him. And then there are a couple of defensive ends who I think would fit the Niners scheme. Keldrick Falk out of Auburn is a really good player. That's a guy that kind of stands out to me. And who else?
I'll give you a guy that I love. I love Zion Young, from the edge rusher from Missouri.
Okay.
They've got a couple good edge rushers, but I really, really like him a lot. There's also, Quinyon Mitchell was so great at Toledo. Toledo's got another great DB this year. His name's Emmanuel McNeil Warren. He's a safety, kind of a long safety, 6'2", tremendous player. He's probably going to be a second-round pick.
Okay.
And I kind of like the Penn State defensive end, Danny Dennis Sutton.
Oh, he's a dog.
Yeah.
270
pounds. He's fast.
Yeah.
He'd be an incredible edge-setting presence. And I love Jeremy Bernard, the Alabama receiver. I was talking to Matt Miller from ESPN, and I said, what do you think of Jeremy Bernard? And he's like, man, I think he'd be a great Niner. He thinks he's a good fit for the 49ers. They have Bernard going in, I believe, the second round. They have him going 48th overall, and the 49ers are projected to pick, who knows, but it's projected to pick in the mid-20s, roughly 24, 25. So those are the guys that I like. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Have a great rest of your Friday. Chase, good to see you. We'll do it again next week. Thanks to all you guys. Thanks to our sponsors. Hit like and subscribe on your way out the door. Thanks to Sleeper, Habbas Law, and of course, Pig and a Pickle. And join us Sunday. We should tell everybody we'll be at Pig and a Pickle on Sunday during the bye week. Stop by, say hello, have some brisket. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get it.